I've posted this story before, but screw it, I will contribute. Was camping with my cousin and uncle by the river a few kilometers out from Rand NSW, about as small a town as can still be called a town. Me and cousin, both around 10, were setting rabbit traps and trying to collect honey when we decided to explore an old quarry nearby. At the edge of the quarry was a small, nearly dry creek with a tree fallen across it like in a movie. We obviously had to walk across and have an adventure. The other side of the creek was immediately different to the side we had came from. The trees were much denser and there were very few signs of humans, no tracks or roads cutting through, just bush. After about a kilometer we hit a fence which we played on for a bit before turning back. This is where my memory gets fuzzy. As we started heading back, I glanced behind us. Out of nowhere there had appeared a pair of humanoid figures about the size of grown men, solidly built and featureless. Kind of felt like they were surrounded by static or that they blended in with the trees around them. My cousin quickly noticed them too and we booked it back towards the quarry. Looking back, the things were steadily loping along after us like they weren't in any kind of hurry. We reached the creek and crossed without incident and stopped on the other side. The grey things stopped and stared at us. I don't remember any features, but I'm also confident they had eyes, as weird as that sounds. After a few moments they turned back and quickly disappeared without a trace. Cousin and I went and pissed off some kangaroos and killed a snake and pretty much ignored the incident, but I haven't forgotten it nearly 2 decades later as the only spooky event I've ever had. This happened to me when I was 8 years old. Explore woods with grandma. Stumble upon an old man looking about 70. There's a small path near him. He's collecting some strawberries. We join him for a minute. Only my grandma talks to him since I'm shy of. We continue on the path. We find a cabin clearly abandoned long time ago. Grandma enters 'cause I'm too scared. She exits the cabin with a terrified look on her face. She says we need to leave. We get back home. 5 years later, when I'm 13, she tells me the old man told her that he lives in the cabin we found, and that in the cabin she saw exactly that man's dead body. One summer when I was 10, me and my stepdad were going on a cross-country drive to Bond. My mom was in prison. We were driving somewhat close to the Humboldt-Toayabe forest, and a man came walking out of the woods who looked like a human pig. I'm not talking as if he was fat or had kind of an upturned nose. He flat out looked like a pig that grew to 6 feet somehow and learned to walk upright. He was also wearing clothes and had claw-like hands but no hooves. He just walked right in front of us nonchalantly. We drove up to a rest stop after that and stayed there for hours barely saying anything. We couldn't believe what we saw and my stepdad was scared to drive because he thought he'd gone crazy. I know this whole thing sounds stupid. People always brought up that Pigman episode of Seinfeld, but it really happened, and while it's certainly possible the creature we saw was just some guy wearing a costume, it wasn't a slip-on mask or something. It was full-on Hollywood tear prosthetics that moved with the guy's face, and his hands were made up too. Maybe he was shooting a commercial or movie or something, but if so I've never been able to find it, and it seems extremely unlikely people would go out of their way to shoot a movie/commercial all the way out in the woods, and risk letting their star go walking out on the middle of the highway, especially if they had such a good makeup budget. The closest thing I've been able to find were these Energy Hog commercials, CPIC, but those didn't come out until 2005 and this was 1997. Plus the costumes in those weren't nearly as good. I'm sure there's a logical explanation, but it was still the eeriest experience of my life. Back from a little day trip. Man, it's neat to see how much this thread has been booming. Got some more stuff for you guys. Be me. Back when I lived in Africa. Family is devout Christian. For some reason, we meet up with a woman who claims to be a former witch/shaman. She tells us some stories from her past. Not sure what to believe at that point, but was more open-minded due to my previous experiences. Tells us that she used to curse people and worship demons. Would sometimes help people, but mostly just ruined people's lives if they pissed her off. Claims to have bound demons to people, and given them terrible diseases. But one of her stories was just a little too real, to just be discarded as fiction. She told how albino people had certain magical properties, and so they were very sought after on the black market of the shaman world. One day, an albino boy was born in one of the villages outside of Ndola, and was hidden away by the family. Someone exposed them though, which ended in the kidnapping of the infant. She recalls that she got a message from one of her associates about some potent stuff for her practitioners. She used a lot of outlandish terms, that I don't recall, so bear with me. She arrived at the spot where she met several other shamans, all gathered around a bunch of coolers. They had fucking killed and parted the poor baby, slicing the boy up in several pieces that apparently were potent in curses and stuff. That was when she reached her limit and changed her ways. Like I said, it's a messed up continent. This one's pretty crap, but it spooked me. Just started university. Living out of state on my own for the first time. Doing laundry late one night in the apartment laundry room. Light bulb is out because shit apartment. Room is just barely lit from outside lights trickling in. Waiting on clothes to finish washing so I can transfer them to the dryer. Ding. Open up the dryer and see movement in the back. WTF. Think it's an animal, peek inside. There's a little opening at the back of the dryer with a little, circular, open door. What looks like a small human hand pops out of the dark opening and pulls the circular door closed. Door closes, perfect seal, can't even tell where the door was. Feel around back there, check for cracks or seams. No noticeable door. MFW. I was so tired and frustrated from my studies that I just said screw it and threw my clothes in the dryer. Hopefully I didn't piss off a little gnome. I had a friend when I was really little, I barely remember. But I would open my window late at night and stick my head out. It was a 2-story house where the windows in the top floor come out sort of on top of the roof, like pic related. Our house was much shittier than this, but you get what I mean. The 2 windows at the very top, where if you open it you can climb out onto the roof. Anyway, I would open the window and stick my head out, and most nights there would be a little man out there. It was always really dark, obviously, but he was bald and had a really round head. He spoke in a squeaky kind of voice. But we would talk about stuff. He would ask me about interactions I had throughout the day, focusing on how I felt about them. For example, say my mom scolded me for something, he'd ask how that made me feel. I have always wondered if that was an alien. It seems strange to me that I don't really remember, until I do, and I remember it really vividly. And I think, like I am now, why aren't I freaking out about this? Because it's definitely real. I'm positive. But it's like, once I'm done consciously thinking about it's gone. Dunno what to do about it. That's funny. I had a woman who would visit me through the bathroom window and kind of do a similar thing, ask me questions about how I felt about things, but it was always a slightly romantic/sexual undertone sort of thing. I don't really remember what she looked like, though. I would get really sad when it was time for her to go, and I remember she'd say something like, "I'm sorry I have to go, but I have to visit other boys." Anyone have experiences with cursed dolls? My mom told me this story. Mom's family is from the rural south. They were dirt poor. Other kids made fun of Mom because she couldn't afford shoes or decent clothes. One day she's walking around her podunk hometown, hungry and lonely. An old woman walks out from behind some trees and comes up to her. "Don't cry, little girl. Take this doll. The doll is nice, has a painted wooden face, real hair, and these little wooden black shoes with golden buckles." Mom thanks the old woman and runs home to play with her doll. Fast forward. One night Mom is sleeping with her doll. She wakes up in the middle of the night. Hears the tip-tapping of little shoes walking across her room. Bedroom door creaks open. Tip-tapping across the hall into her parents' room. Mom realizes her doll is gone. Too tired to get up, she falls asleep. Next morning, her parents look distraught and disheveled like they haven't slept. They tell Mom they're going to get rid of her doll. Someone will be coming by the house later to take it away. Mom cries, it's the only nice thing she has. Later, an old man shows up and talks to them. "A witch made this doll to spy on you. Whoever made it now knows I'm here, and they'll try to kill me. Leave the house and leave me alone with it." They all go outside. Mom and parents can hear a huge commotion inside the house. The man is yelling and there are other sounds like moans of pain. Eventually everything settles down. The old man comes out looking exhausted, says it's safe to come inside. He has something in his hand. It's the doll, but it's shrunk. The wooden face looks more human and wrinkled. Looks like the old woman who gave the doll to my mom. A few of the details in your story brought to mind a weird experience I had back home. I haven't thought about it in a long time. This happened in Sawyer County, Wisconsin. Area is quite rural. Brother and I would spend a lot of time outdoors exploring. Being young boys, we'd race from one spot to the next. He was older than me and he always won. One day we're racing to the base of this little hill. He beats me as usual, and I decide to walk the rest of the way. I can see my bro ascending the hill. Foot slips in a huge puddle of water and I almost fall. When I regain my balance, I look up and brother is gone. The whole world looks dark, like when it's about to storm. I call out my brother's name, no response. Feeling nervous about the hill, I take a step backwards. Right into the same goddamn puddle. Fall on my back, right into the water. Splash. Gif. When I get back up, the whole world is normal again, bright and sunny. I hear my brother's voice. He's on the hill laughing at me. Nothing else happened. Sorry if it's kind of lame, but it's the weirdest thing I've experienced. Be me, 17 at the time. Stayed up with wholesome parent-mandated church friends till almost 4 a.m. Drumming, watching movies, eating a shitload of cold pizza. Absolutely awake, sober, and unaltered. Get bored, decide to head home. 30-minute drive through fields and farmland to the suburbs. It's a clear night with a bright moon. I'm driving my old SUV, driving in silence, no radio. Now, I have no idea if this is important or related at all, but along my route is an old abandoned 2-story farmhouse about half a mile from the road. On the road in front of it is a small bridge, under which runs a usually dry creek. The house was deserted after a fire burned most of the roof and half of the top floor about 6 months earlier. Don't know what caused the fire. Anyway, as I approach the bridge near the house, the next part of the Greentext happens all within about 10 seconds as I drive towards and then pass the bridge. The road turns a bit and now my headlights are pointing toward the bridge. It's still distant though. I notice something tall. I seem to remember there used to be a tree or something in that general area, so it doesn't strike me as odd. I keep driving closer. The figure appears to be a person coming up the embankment. But there's something off about them. I keep driving closer. I'm close enough to see the figure more clearly. My headlight is hitting it. It's not a human. The figure is like a human, but everything is wrong. The figure is naked, but it is almost entirely gray. There are no features like genitals. The creature's limbs are abnormally long, and impossibly thin. Looking back, I am 100% certain it was not someone in a costume or suit, because a human body cannot fit its limbs or neck into those proportions. Like you'd expect, it has huge black eyes, no nose, and an extremely small mouth. I'm strangely calm as I'm passing the thing. My brain isn't able to comprehend what I'm seeing. I am looking it dead in the eye. It is standing on the edge of the road. There is nothing around it. No strings, no sticks. This is not some puppet. We are staring at each other as I drive closer. It is reaching its arm out to me, its impossibly long fingers wiggling at me. Its tiny mouth is moving. It is trying to get my attention. It wants me to stop. I do not. I am past the thing. I drive home in silence. I feel what I remember now as absolute terror, so much so that it broke me. I was so afraid that I felt nothing at all. Like true, immediate trauma. I remember feeling like it was not safe to walk from the driveway to the house, but my body did so on its own despite my mind begging it not to. I go straight to my room and fall immediately asleep. The next morning it was like nothing happened. I didn't even remember the event, it wasn't on my mind at all. It took me 6 months before the memory came back to me. I think my brain was just incapable of dealing with an event that it could not rationalize. I try not to think about it, because when I do it makes me extremely uncomfortable. I can honestly say I haven't had any strange encounters since, and I am 29 now. Very few people in my life know. I know that my description of the thing sounds like the generic gray alien trope, but I am 100% sure of how it looked. I truly believe it was an alien, though some religious friends have said it was a demon in an alien form. I often wonder what it wanted from me. Why was it trying to talk to me? Did it need help? Was it connected in some way to the burned house? I don't know, and I hope I never find out. First time posting in this type of threads. Sharing a maybe not so spooky but it was really unsettling back then. Camping with family on a rather secluded beach near San Quintin in Ensenada. There's this dormant volcano nearby. Dad suggests we should check out the crater. Being as adventurous as him, I agree to tag along. Hop on his old Jeep and get on a road we believe leads up the volcano. It's mid-November, so by 5 or 6 in the afternoon it was already getting dark. Been driving about an hour and not really seeing the peak getting closer. Getting bummed. Instead the road is getting narrower. Getting worried. It's already around 7:30 and it's already pitch dark. Worse is, we finally find the end of the road. Only rocks and mostly bushes around. At least the road with a clear vehicle tracks. Ahead the path is fairly flat and it seems to go up. Feel of adventure and common sense are conflicting. We stop to discuss the predicament we're in at the moment. Suddenly something breaks the monotony of the trip. Something rises up from among the bushes to our right. A single red glowing eye/orb comes up as if startled by the car's engine. Me and my dad are silent, trying to figure out what sort of wildlife we stumbled upon. Options narrow when I realize the size of this thing, or rather its height. From my seat I could see it almost at eye level, so maybe 1.5 meters or like 5 feet. Still silent, thing still staring at us. Suddenly, it moves closer, as if it took a step forward. My dad shifts gears to reverse, sensing this thing might actually not be wildlife. The noise of the shifting gears seems to startle the creature, and so it makes its exit. Mother lover starts bouncing, silently and floaty as if the thing was made of paper, still looking at us. Every bounce going higher until on its last one it flies off out of sight. Needless to say, we book it back to camp. To this day I'm not sure what we saw. I got one. It's not as dramatic, but here we go. Be in a woods, my own property. Hunting deer in 50 acres of woods. Don't see anything, getting dark. Walk back to the house. About 3/4 of a mile. Get to the house, dark now. About to go inside, hear rustling by my feed shed. Whatever. Probably just a coon. They're everywhere in Louisiana. Grab 9mm out of my holster, walk towards the shed, hugging the edge so the light from the electrical pole won't shine on me. See this thing, about 7 foot tall. Looks like a freaking bodybuilder with dog hind legs and a dog head. Matted gray fur in patches. Friggin' chowing down on my rice bran. Screw you dude. JPG. 9mm not gonna cut it, reholster and move away from shed. Walk about 100 yards away, thing is paying no attention to me. Realize my dogs haven't been barking or anything. They're English Mastiffs. 200 pounds of terror. Bring my 7mm rem mag up to my shoulder, take aim. Its back is towards me. Fire center mass, hit it dead center of the back. It lurches forward and lets out a terrible scream. Sounded like a howling dog and a rabbit's death scream, but louder and deeper. It takes off at an ungodly speed, tearing through the woods. Check in the morning, no blood, no hair, no nothing. My face when it took a dead center hit from a 7mm rem mag, my face when it ate half of a 2,000-pound bag of rice bran. My face when it didn't even offer to pay. In all seriousness, there were some deep cuts in the bag where the bran was compacted. I still don't know what I saw, but it hasn't been back.